The triangular trade, the Middle Passage. What was it? Who was involved? Well, it involved 3 continents. It involved Europe, Africa, and North America. As soon as Europeans discovered the New World, they soon realized that it was an opportune place to establish new colonies, specifically by the Spanish and the British. As people began to realize that there was new opportunity in the New World, they began to migrate and move to North America with hopes of building new cities and towns and new societies. As they soon found out, the task at hand was quite significant, quite difficult. It required an immense amount of labor and a large workforce. To solve their problem, these new Americans began to send boats to Africa. It was commonly known throughout the world that on the west coast of Africa, if one had the means, if one had the ability and the money, you could purchase slaves. Slaves that could then be used to help build the new world in the Americas. Slaves would be forced onto boats and sent to the Americas. The majority of these slaves stopped off in the West Indies, what we refer today as the Caribbean. The West Indies was known as the Middle Passage. This Middle Passage was a stopping point, a point where sailors would force the slaves off onto the islands to live out their lives working the fields. Or it was the place where these slaves were sold and traded for, where they made their final journey to North America. Once in North America, the slaves were forced to produce raw goods such as sugar and lumber and cotton. These raw goods were then sent on a boat to Europe. In Europe, the Europeans would turn these raw goods into things like clothing and furniture and rum. The Europeans would then sell those finished goods to Africa. And in Africa, those goods would then be traded or sold. Most of the time, the goods, if they were traded, were sold for or traded for slaves. And then new slaves would be put back onto boats and forced to make the horrific journey to the Americas. These shipping routes formed a triangular shape, hence the name, the triangular trade route.